So welcome. My name is Rachel. I am the archivist over at the Whaling Museum. And tonight I ask you all to join me to go back in time to when the Port Society started in 1830. So to give a little context before we kind of dive into these artifacts, I'm just going to give you a little context to New Bedford itself as a whaling port. So by 1830, it was on its way. It wasn't yet, but on its way to becoming the richest city per capita in the world. So we see the beautiful mansions, we see the cobblestone streets, and we see the wealth accumulated by these merchants, reflecting the wealth that was in the city. And through this wealth, we also see tensions kind of rise between classes. So people who, were part of a higher class, citizens in the city, kind of had tensions with the sailors coming in and leaving port, and had certain perspectives on their vices that they would kind of get up to in the city. So if I read our first object, if I read from the first annual report of the Board of Managers of the New Bedford Port Society for the moral improvement of seamen, a mouthful, it'll kind of highlight the perspectives of community members. So with regard to sailors, the general apathy had become so great that they were, and still are, in the estimation of large portions of society, considered as a distinct caste or order of beings, whose follies, since they cannot be corrected, must be endured. So, it's pretty strong language. I wouldn't want to be described that way. But these were kind of the tensions that existed in this time. And a group of merchants and citizens of a Quaker background kind of wanted to mitigate these relationships and kind of mitigate the experience that the sailors were having before they left port in New Bedford. We can also read here some more perspectives of the town people. The morbid appetite for intoxicating drinks, which so generally prevails among seamen, and which is aggravated by every facility for its indulgence, is probably the most formidable obstacle with which we have to contend in our endeavors to improve their condition. So really focused on, this intemperance within these seamen. And we see in May of 1830, the starting of essentially this congregation of these merchants and citizens of New Bedford come together at the merchants' insurance office to draft a constitution as to what exactly they're going to do about this. And we see in Article 2 of this constitution that was later adopted a month later, the object of this society shall be to protect the rights and interests of seamen, and to furnish them with the moral, intellectual, and religious instruction as the Board of Managers shall deem practicable. And on the back of this, so this constitution was signed within the following weeks by 89 members, and some of which a year later would be elected as officers or board members of this port society, including some names that you might know, like the president, Samuel Rodman Jr., Vice President Sylvester Holmes and John Howland Jr., and then directors like Charles W. Morgan and William W. Swain. And if we move forward to our next artifact, this kind of helps tell the fuller story of the Port Society, and specifically how women were often just as important as the men involved in the Port Society. So we see again, because of this society's, their problem was really the environment. The environment had so many, it's kind of chaos around town, where people could go to taverns and other institutions that might not be of Quaker Quaker preferences, let's say. So it was through Mary Roach, of a Quaker woman and from a prominent New Bedford family, that she had uh, essentially sold land so that the Port Society would have a physical location that sailors could go to. And in this deed, she sold the land where the Seamen's Bethel stands today in 1831. She was originally going to rent it to the society, but then decided to just sell it so that they could do what they needed to do, which then they had built the Seamen's Bethel and went into pretty extreme debt. They accrued about over $5,000 in debt, which maybe seems like nothing today, but that was a substantial amount in the 1830s. And again, the society looked for ways to get that cost down. And again, we see kind of women stepping forward and solving or sustaining the Port Society for future use through they held a fair. So in the seventh annual, oh, here we go. In the seventh annual report, there's mention of this fair taking place that would raise $2,000 to help bring down this debt. So on the 24th of November last, the Board of Managers voted to unite with the ladies' branch of the society in holding a fair for the benefit of the institution. Accordingly, on the 22nd of February, the bazaar was opened, and it would soon ascertain that the appeal thus made to the public on behalf of the sailor had not been made in vain. Over $2,000 was in this way obtained. So again, we see the way that both the Port Society and the women's branch came together to pay off this debt and women's support in this society's existence. Now, this is my favorite artifact that we're going to look at today. And this is a Seamen's register. So this was actually kept in the Seamen's Bethel basement in the reading room, where the reading room was a place, again, for sailors to go and stay out of the chaos outside. And it was, through the Port Society, a way to promote a sort of character of a sailor that they wanted to see. So they would record name, age, and where a sailor was coming from, and what date they were leaving, as well as the ship name, its captain, and where it was going in terms of whaling grounds. It also notably would record the complexion of someone. So we see here that there's a record of skin color within these sailors, which kind of informs us on the ethnic background of crew members going out to port and also coming in and out of the Bethel, and also inform us just the diversity that existed on these ships and at sea. Another thing that I actually want to ask you guys. So can anyone tell me why this was useful?
So he left and who actually going back?
Yeah. So specifically, this was useful for families to be able to know that either their brother, their father, their son had left New Bedford. Also in terms of where they went. So it was a way for families to trace where essentially their family members or friends were going. Oftentimes when you're at sea for years at a time, you're not making a lot of stops at land, and so you might not be able to send letters back and forth to your family or friends, or vice versa. So this was a way for families. Oh, and another thing, you also might not be able to read or write. Oftentimes, the chaplain or other shipmates would record this information for crewmates that were illiterate. So keeping that in mind, you might not even be able to write your family. So this was a way for families to basically access this information of, again, if they left out of New Bedford's port and where they went. Additionally, this also was a means for government assistance for sailors. So a lot of times sailors were not able to prove that they might have been at sea for a long period of time if they were seeking some sort of government assistance or based on like injuries or illnesses. So this was a way to prove that to receive those assistance. And then so a lot of this, I call it quantitative data you can find in these books. It was noted that the first 500 names in this register, the average age of men were 23 years old. And also, there's some other interesting notes that can be found in these registers that might be more qualitative information. So if we look at a name halfway down the list, William Skinner from New London, Connecticut. Someone must have seen this name and had met this guy at some point and have written a little note by him. And excuse my language, but he had written, "A damn rascal and scoundrel, God help him if I see him again on land." And this was written by, they only initialed their name IY. So again, we see this is not only used for documentation and a means for families and government to kind of see who's coming out and going where, but also it kind of highlights characters, the character of a sailor. And then the last thing I will mention in here, which I think you all will find interesting, whose cursive reading is good. You want to take a shot?
How many more?
Come.
Glasses.
It's.
Oh, the glasses with the.
I have a magnifying glass.
Oh, you do?
Oh, I'm prepared. So if you can read the name that corresponds with this blue arrow.
Could we have your name first? It says Herman Melville.
Yes, so this is the register that Herman Melville signed, or it was signed for him, going out of New Bedford in late December of 1841. He was only 21 years old. And one could say that he was a scoundrel because he deserted. But, oop. And this right here, after I'm kind of done with my talk, this is an index that you can use. It's all alphabetized, though you might have kind of a struggle on the page to find, because it might be M, but it might not be alphabetized per the character you're on. But it will give you some insight to where they might be in the book based on last name. And then one last thing I want to mention before I move on from this. This is significant because this informs us that Herman Melville did indeed come through the Bethel, and it also, it affected him in such a way that he wrote about it a decade later in his novel Moby Dick. So, listening to the sermon and just taking in the atmosphere, it moved him enough that that the Seamen's Bethel and the Port Society as a whole really would be immortalized in this novel for even today. So moving on to our last artifact.
Where did he desert?
I think it was in Honolulu. Yeah, which kind of I'd be deserting there too. So, and I won't go over this, but again, this is kind of a sincere story about the register that if you are interested in reading, a woman was looking for her son and the chaplain was able to help her, and kind of, again, reinforces the need for the Port Society to kind of to help families and not just the seamen coming in and out. So our last artifact that I'm going to go over is another deed, actually by the the niece of Mary Roach. Her name was Sarah Arnold Roach. She was the daughter of one of the founders of the Port Society, William Roach Jr., and she actually donated his home and land to the Port Society to establish, under the condition that they would first raise $3,000. They would and they would create a mariner's home, essentially, or a boarding house, really, for seamen coming in and out. So they did just that, and they moved the home, I believe, from Water Street and William up to here by the Bethel, so everything is close together. And it would serve as again, the boarding house, the Mariner's Home. It was originally called the Acushnet House, but now we know it today as the Mariner's Home. And this provided meals, this provided lodging and company, and also just community for these sailors going out. It was also then functioned as a informal hospital, so any sick sailors who, you know, a common illness might have been like tuberculosis, they could be taken care of here. And again, just keeping in mind the women's work involved in the Port Society and the success of the continued efforts of what the Port Society did for seamen, women of the ladies branch, also continued to be a vital role in fundraising and just the operation of the building. And as whaling declined, we also would see this building sort of turn into a sort of nursing home for aging whalemen and sailors, and a place for the chaplain to live until 1952. So I'm going to give you all time to now go through the documents. If you want to touch anything, I ask you please wear gloves. Don't bring any food or drink in here. If you have any questions, let me know. But yeah, enjoy.